I stood there, watching my wife hold the newborn in her arms, knowing full well that child wasn't mine. In front of both our mothers, I asked for a DNA test. I shattered the illusion of happiness right there in that hospital room. But that was only the beginning. Because 3 years later, after the one who betrayed me was gone, I received a request to adopt the very child who wasn't mine. My name is Ethan Campbell. I used to be a family man, a man of principles, and also a man who kept silent for 4 long months, knowing my wife had cheated. I let her carry that baby in peace. I said nothing. But once the child was born, I had to speak the truth. Today I'm telling you a story about betrayal, about consequence, and about a decision no father should ever have to face. If you've ever felt betrayed, if you've ever been pushed to your breaking point, stay with me. You might see a piece of yourself in what I'm about to share. The room smelled of antiseptic and fresh linen, beeping monitors, soft cries, and silence. Rachel looked down at the baby wrapped in pink, her eyes gleaming with tears of joy and exhaustion. My mother, Margaret, stood near her, beaming with pride. Helen, Rachel's mother, hovered close, whispering blessings under her breath. I stayed near the door. Still, distant. I didn't walk over. I didn't reach for the child. I felt my mother's eyes on me, sharp, questioning. She said nothing. A nurse walked in holding a clipboard. "Mr. Campbell," she said with a soft smile, "we need the father's name for the birth certificate." I turned slowly. "We'll fill it out after the DNA test confirms I am the father." Everything stopped. Rachel's head snapped up. "What did you just say?" she whispered. Helen gasped. My mother stiffened. Rachel's smile vanished. Her arms tightened around the child. Her face turned pale, her voice trembling. "You're accusing me? In front of everyone?" I didn't flinch. "No," I said coldly. "I'm not accusing. I'm stating a fact." "You bastard," Rachel hissed, her voice rising, sharp and wounded. "You're ruining the most important moment of our lives." I met her glare, steady, controlled. "The most important moment?" I said. "For who? You, or the man you slept with behind my back?" Helen stepped forward, eyes wide with panic. "Ethan, please, not here, not now. She just gave birth, she's fragile." "She was fragile when she cheated?" I asked, my tone low. Rachel's face twisted, shock, shame, rage blending into one. She clutched the baby tighter, almost protectively. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to cry. My mother spoke then, voice trembling. "This isn't the time, Ethan. You're going to break her." "She already broke us," I said. Then I stepped closer, just enough for Rachel to feel the weight of the truth. "Tell me, Rachel," I asked calmly. "Should I call Derek Collins, or will you?" Rachel flinched. She knew the name. She wasn't ready for what came next. But I was. Rachel's lips parted, but no words came out. Her arms trembled. She held the baby tighter, like a shield she hoped would protect her from truth. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. "There's nothing between me and Derek." I reached into my coat pocket, slowly, deliberately. "You're right," I said, my voice calm, sharp as glass. "Because his name isn't Derek." Her eyes widened. I saw it, that flicker, that panic. "It's Marshall Collins." I unfolded a piece of paper, creased, stained at the edges. I didn't look at it. I knew the words by heart. I held it in front of her and read aloud. "My husband should never know about you and me. I don't want anything to do with you." The color drained from her face. Helen gasped. My mother stepped back, as if the air had been punched out of her. Rachel's voice broke. "How did you get that?" I met her eyes. "He gave it to me, and I saved it for this moment." Rachel's body trembled. Her breath came in broken gasps. She looked at me like I had just torn the world out from under her feet. "He said no one would ever find out," she muttered, her voice barely audible. "But I did," I said. "And I stayed silent for 4 months." She shook her head, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "No, it wasn't like that. Please, just let me explain." "You can't explain betrayal," I cut in. "You plan to lie to me for the rest of your life. Raise his child in my house." Helen moved to her daughter's side, her voice shaking. "Ethan, stop. What if the child is yours? What if you're wrong?" My mother stepped forward too, eyes wide with disbelief. "You waited this long. For what? To destroy her?" I looked at them all. 3 generations in one room. 1 baby. 2 mothers. 1 lie. I turned to Rachel. You cheated, Rachel. And now we wait for truth. From a swab and a lab. The room felt frozen. Not a word. Not a breath. Rachel stared at the floor, her tears dripping silently onto the baby's blanket. I stood still, arms crossed, jaw clenched, but my voice remained steady, not loud, not cruel, just final. I waited because I didn't want her stressed during pregnancy, I said, glancing at the 2 women beside her. I knew she was cheating. I knew the name. I knew everything. Helen's hand shot up to her mouth. My mother gasped, eyes flicking toward me. You knew for 4 months? She whispered. I nodded. I stayed because I wanted the child to be born safely. Whether he was mine or not, he didn't ask for this. Rachel looked up, eyes red, lips trembling. So, you've been pretending this whole time? No, I replied. I've been waiting, for this moment, for the truth. The nurse had re-entered quietly, frozen in the doorway. I turned to her. Bring the test kit. Rachel let out a soft cry. This wasn't a negotiation, it was the reckoning. The nurse nodded slowly and left to get the test kit. Rachel sat motionless, the baby cradled in her arms like porcelain, fragile, heavy. Her eyes didn't leave mine. You should have said something, she whispered. You should have talked to me. I let out a breath. I did talk, Rachel, just not out loud. I talked every time I looked at you and swallowed my anger. Every time I kissed your cheek and tasted guilt. Every time I felt a stranger's shadow in our home. Helen sat down, burying her face in her hands. My mother turned away, staring at the wall like it might offer a way out. I didn't want to explode, I said, so I waited. Rachel shook her head slowly. I didn't mean to hurt you. That's the thing, I said. You didn't just hurt me. You insulted every part of me that believed in you. The door creaked open. The nurse returned, holding the test kit. It was time. The clock on our silence had run out. The nurse approached cautiously, setting the test kit on a rolling tray beside the bed. No one moved. Even the beeping monitors felt quieter. Rachel looked down at the baby, then back at me, desperation flickering behind her tears. I swear, Ethan, I don't know for sure. I made a mistake, but maybe he is yours. Maybe? I repeated, letting the word hang. My voice wasn't angry. It was cold, measured, like I'd spent months sharpening it in silence. The nurse gently asked for the baby. Rachel hesitated, only a second, but that second said everything. She didn't want the truth. Not now, not officially. Give him to the nurse, I said firmly. She did, slowly, reluctantly, her hands trembling. I stepped forward, pulling out my phone. Today's the day, Rachel. We stop guessing. My mother finally spoke again, her voice shaky. And if he's yours? I turned to her, my face unreadable. If he's mine, I said, I'll be his father. Is. But I won't stay married to a liar. Helen rose from the chair, her face pale, voice trembling. Ethan, please, she said gently. She just gave birth. Her body's exhausted. Her hormones are a mess. This isn't the time to push her like this. I glanced at Rachel, who was staring at the floor, lips parted, barely breathing. She made the time to cheat, I said. She can make time to face the truth. Helen stepped closer. If you keep talking like this, she'll spiral. She could fall into postpartum depression. You're not just hurting her. You're endangering the baby. My mother, still silent for most of this, finally broke. You should be ashamed of yourself, she snapped. Rachel made a mistake, but this, accusing her in the hospital, with your child in her arms? I didn't respond right away. I looked at my mother, then at Helen. You're both mothers, I said, but I'm a father, or at least I might be. My voice dropped lower. This moment isn't cruel, it's overdue. Rachel finally looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen, filled with disbelief. Do you really hate me that much? She whispered. I didn't answer with anger. I answered with clarity. I don't hate you, I said. I just don't trust you, and I can't build a life on that. Helen's voice cracked. She's still your wife, Ethan. Can't you try, just once, to forgive? I turned to her slowly. Would you forgive a man who made your daughter raise a child born from his affair? She said nothing. Rachel's tears were falling freely now. Her hands trembled in her lap. Please, can't we fix this? We can go to therapy. Try again. For the baby. My jaw tightened. I stepped closer. I stayed quiet to protect your pregnancy, but I won't protect your lies. Then I faced them all. The two women who raised us, the woman who betrayed me, the child wrapped in uncertainty. This ends now, I said. And when the results come, so does this marriage. The nurse finished collecting the samples. Baby, Rachel, me, Rachel. She packed the kit in a sealed envelope, said results would be ready in a few days, then quietly left the room, like she couldn't get away fast enough. I turned back to Helen. Once she's discharged, take her with you, I said. Rachel's head jerked toward me. What? You're kicking me out? Where am I supposed to go? I've already packed your things, I replied calmly. They'll be delivered. You won't be coming back to my house. Helen stepped forward, protective, angry. She just gave birth, Ethan. So did a million other women this week, I said. That doesn't give her a free pass to wreck lives. Rachel stood slowly, still weak from labor, her voice trembling. Please, we can get past this. You don't mean any of this. You still love me. I looked at her for a long, quiet second. Then I shook my head. No, I love the woman you pretended to be. I walked out of the hospital room without another word. The hallway was quiet, cold, sterile, but it felt more honest than anything inside that room. Outside, I sat in my car and just stared at the wheel, hands clenched, heart hollow. 10 minutes passed before my phone buzzed. Mom, I answered. Ethan, she said softly, you didn't have to do it like that. I closed my eyes, jaw tight. She cheated on me, Mom. I know, and I'm not defending her, but there was a better way. No, I said firmly. There wasn't. I gave her 4 months of silence. That was the better way. She hesitated. She's hurting. She's still recovering. And the baby, he needs peace. I swallowed hard, my voice low. You want peace? Don't ask me to pretend this didn't happen. There was a long pause. She whispered, I've never seen you like this. Yeah, I said bitterly. That's what betrayal does. It changes people. Then I hung up and let the silence crawl in again. The next morning I woke up to 3 missed calls, all from my mother. By the 4th I finally picked up. Her voice was tight, controlled, but under it I heard judgment. Ethan, I raised you better than this. I stayed quiet. You humiliated your wife, she continued, in front of family, in front of her mother. That wasn't justice. It was cruelty. My grip on the phone tightened. She humiliated our marriage, in private, for months. She made a mistake. No, Mom, I snapped. She made a choice, again and again. She went silent. Then, you can't carry this hate forever. I laughed, bitter, dry. Hate? I don't hate her. I feel nothing. And that's worse. She tried once more. She's the mother of your child. That means something. I exhaled slowly. If that baby is mine, I'll be there for him. But if you keep pushing reconciliation, I said, voice cold, final, then from this day forward, you can consider your son dead. She didn't argue after that. 2 days later, Rachel was served with divorce papers. No warning, no discussion. Just a knock on the door and a thick envelope with my signature on every page. I filed under adultery, and I meant every letter. I had already canceled her credit cards. The joint account? Drained. My share withdrawn. Every asset frozen pending court approval. She tried calling. I didn't pick up. She sent messages, apologies, excuses, voice notes crying in the dark. I didn't answer any of them. Later that evening, my lawyer, Ron Bradley, called. It's done, he said. She's in shock. Good, I replied. She should be. He paused. You sure about all of this? I was sure the moment she looked me in the eye, and still lied. Ron sighed. Then we prepare for war. She's hiring legal help. She won't let go easy. I nodded to myself. She can fight all she wants, I said, but she already lost the only thing that mattered, my trust. The courtroom smelled of wood polish and stale tension. Rachel sat across from me, her lawyer whispering in her ear. She looked composed, makeup done, hair neat, but her eyes betrayed her. Puffy, tired. Judge Simmons entered, An older woman, sharp eyes, stiff posture. She looked at me like she'd already made up her mind. "Mr. Campbell," she began, tone clipped, "it appears you're trying to abandon your responsibilities. A child has been born. Regardless of the circumstances, stability is crucial." I didn't flinch. I expected this. Ron stood up, calm, collected. "Your Honor," he said, "with all due respect, my client is not abandoning a child. He's simply refusing to raise one that may not be his." Judge Simmons raised an eyebrow. Ron continued, placing a file gently on her desk. "We have a pending DNA test and documentation of Mrs. Campbell's ongoing affair. We're not speculating, we're stating fact." Rachel shifted in her seat, her lips tightening. I didn't look at her. I was done watching liars pretend to be victims. Judge Simmons glanced at the file, then at Rachel. "Mrs. Campbell," she said, "do you deny having an affair during your marriage?" Rachel hesitated. A beat too long. I didn't mean for it to happen," she said softly. "I was lonely. Ethan was always gone for work. I felt invisible." I bit the inside of my cheek. Classic. Ron didn't miss a beat. "So you admit it happened?" She nodded slowly, eyes dropping. "And the baby?" Judge Simmons asked. "You told your husband he was the father." Rachel swallowed hard. "Because I didn't know. I still don't." Ron stepped forward, cool and precise. "Your Honor, we have digital proof. Messages between Mrs. Campbell and Mr. Collins throughout her pregnancy. She claimed she cut ties. She did not." He held up printed screenshots. "She told Mr. Collins she loved him. She told him her husband would never find out. She planned this deception." Judge Simmons leaned back in her chair, frowning. Rachel looked like the air had left her lungs. The truth was no longer a theory. It was on paper. Rachel shifted in her seat, straightening her spine like she was about to take center stage. Her voice quivered. Just enough. Her eyes welled up. "I wasn't trying to destroy my marriage," she said. "I was just broken. Marshall listened when Ethan didn't. He saw me. I looked down at the table, jaw tight. Judge Simmons folded her hands. "So you're saying your husband was emotionally absent?" "Yes," Rachel whispered. "He was always away. Business trips, meetings. I felt like I didn't exist." Ron leaned in slightly, almost amused. "Did you ever tell him how you felt?" Rachel blinked. "What? Did you ever say, 'Ethan, I feel alone. I need you home more'? Did you ask for help?" Rachel faltered, just for a second. "No," she muttered, "but he should have known." Ron turned to the judge. "Your Honor, this wasn't a marriage falling apart. This was a wife creating a second life, while lying to the man funding the first." Rachel's lower lip trembled, but crocodile tears couldn't rewrite a digital trail. Ron didn't back off. His tone sharpened, still polite but surgical. "Mrs. Campbell, you claim you cut off contact with Mr. Collins once you discovered you were pregnant. Is that correct?" Rachel nodded quickly. "Yes, I wanted to fix my marriage." Ron raised a single brow, then held up a new set of papers. "These are messages dated weeks after that claim. You told him, and I quote, 'I don't want Ethan to know. Not yet. Maybe never.'" The courtroom went still. Rachel stared at the documents, frozen. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. "Did you sleep with Mr. Collins after discovering you were pregnant?" Ron asked. "No," she said instantly. "Did you tell Ethan the truth?" "I was scared." "Did you stop lying?" he pressed. Rachel's voice cracked. "I was trying to protect my family." Ron turned to the judge. "She didn't protect her family. She protected her fantasy, until it fell apart under the weight of her own words." Rachel slumped slightly. The mask was slipping, and everyone saw it. Rachel sat in silence, hands clenched in her lap, her composure unraveling thread by thread. Ron gave her a moment, then leaned forward again, voice steady. "Mrs. Campbell, has your husband ever hit you?" Rachel's eyes widened. "What? No, never." "Has he yelled at you, threatened you?" "No. Ethan's calm, too calm." Ron tilted his head. "So no abuse, no violence, no emotional manipulation." She hesitated. "No." He nodded. "Then tell the court. Why did you cheat?" Rachel looked over at me. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. She broke. "I was just lonely," she whispered. "And he was there. He made me feel wanted." Tears slipped down her cheeks. I needed to feel something. I didn't think. Ron didn't move, his voice barely above a whisper. So you risked your marriage, lied about a baby, for a feeling? Rachel covered her face with both hands, sobbing into her palms. No more performance, no more defense. The courtroom wasn't judging her anymore. She had already judged herself. The silence in the courtroom was thick, uncomfortable. Even the stenographer had paused for a second. Judge Simmons leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. Ron stood tall, eyes calm but firm. Rachel was unraveling. She wiped her face, took a shaky breath, and then, in a voice that cracked from within, she said the one thing that shattered every last illusion. I was just horny, she blurted out. I wanted to have sex, that's it. The entire courtroom stiffened. Even Judge Simmons blinked. I didn't plan it, Rachel added, voice rising. I just needed to feel alive again. Her lawyer leaned over, whispering frantically in her ear. But it was too late. That sentence echoed. Ron let it hang, then took a slow step forward. No more questions, he said quietly, and returned to his seat. Rachel buried her face in her hands again, shoulders trembling. That moment wasn't just raw, it was the sound of a woman losing everything, because she finally told the truth. Judge Simmons let out a long, audible sigh. She rubbed her temples as if trying to erase what she'd just heard. Mrs. Campbell, she said, voice tight, that will be enough. Rachel didn't respond. She stayed hunched over, hands covering her face, the weight of the room pressing down on her. Court is adjourned for today, the judge declared, striking her gavel once. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks to continue proceedings. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. I stood slowly, buttoned my jacket. I didn't look at Rachel. I didn't need to. I had nothing left to say. Ron patted my shoulder as we exited. You handled that better than most men ever could. I didn't respond. Outside the courthouse, the air felt colder, lighter somehow, like truth had stripped away the last pieces of rot. But the battle wasn't over. Not yet. The paperwork was filed. The truth had been spoken. Now, we waited for judgment. 2 weeks later, we were back in the same courtroom. Same seats, same judge, same tension. But something was different. There were no outbursts this time. No performances. No tears. Just silence and resignation. Judge Simmons looked over the room, then directly at me. Mr. Campbell, do you wish to reconcile with your wife? I didn't even hesitate. No, Your Honor. My voice was firm, unshaken. Rachel didn't look at me. She sat beside her lawyer, red-eyed, expression blank. The judge nodded slowly, then lifted her gavel. Then this court hereby orders that the marriage between Ethan Campbell and Rachel Campbell is dissolved. Assets will be split equally, pending final review. She struck the gavel. Sharp. Final. Just like that, it was over, at least on paper. I stood up and walked out without turning back. No handshake, no eye contact, no closure. Some endings don't need words, just a door that finally shuts. And this one? It shut with no regrets. I sold the house 2 days after the divorce was finalized. Didn't even pack it myself. Hired movers. Paid extra so I'd never have to see the inside again. It wasn't a home anymore, just walls filled with fake smiles and silent nights. I moved into a small apartment near my office. Nothing fancy, just clean, quiet, mine. For the first time in months, I slept without checking my phone, without bracing for a lie, without wondering who she was texting. I cooked simple meals, got back to the gym, went to work, came home. There was peace in the routine, and peace, for me, felt like freedom. Rachel still tried to reach out. Messages, emails, but I never answered. She had already said everything that needed to be said when she said it to someone else's arms. Let her live in the mess she made. I had no interest in digging through rubble for something that never existed. I wasn't healing. I was rebuilding, brick by brick. It had been a few weeks of silence. Then one evening my phone rang. Helen Carter, Rachel's mother. I stared at the screen for a moment. My thumb hovered. Part of me wanted to let it ring out, but something, instinct maybe, made me answer. Ethan, she said, voice flat. We need to talk. Can you come to my house? I leaned back in my chair, already tired. Helen, I don't think that's a good idea. It's not about Rachel, she interrupted, tone sharper now. It's something else. I was about to decline again when I heard another voice in the background. "Martin, come meet us." It was my mother. I sat up. That changed everything. "If Mom's there, what the hell is going on?" "She'll explain when you get here." Click. She hung up. I stared at the phone, unease crawling up my spine. They were both in the same house, and I had no idea what I was walking into. But I went anyway, because when two mothers call, you don't ignore it. Helen opened the door before I could knock. She didn't say a word, just nodded for me to come in. Inside, my mother was already seated, hands wrapped around a mug of tea like it was holding her together. The air was heavy, too still, too calm. I opened my mouth to speak, but Helen beat me to it. "Rachel's dead." Just like that. No warning, no softness. I froze. What are you talking about?" Helen's voice didn't waver. "She died last week, in Florida." I waited for more. An accident? An illness? Helen stared at me for a beat, then said it. "I killed her." The words felt unreal, like a scene from a show I didn't remember watching. "I fed her to an alligator." My jaw tightened. My breath caught. I looked at my mother, expecting shock, horror, anything. But she didn't flinch. She just reached for the whiskey bottle on the table and poured me a drink. "You'll need this," she said quietly. And for once, I believed her. I didn't speak. Couldn't. I took the glass, stared into the amber swirl, then emptied it in one swallow. It burned going down, but not nearly as much as the words still hanging in the room. "I watched her," Helen said, voice steady, almost disturbingly calm. "I stood there while the gator took her. I didn't look away." I looked at my mother again. Still nothing in her eyes. No shock, no protest. "She was in therapy," Helen continued. "But she started poisoning Lucas's mind, telling him lies about you, calling you dangerous, unloving, a monster." My grip tightened around the glass. I didn't know whether to feel fury or fear, maybe both. "I warned her," Helen said. She laughed. Then she leaned back in her chair, her voice quiet. "I chose to protect him." I looked at both women, the mother of the woman who betrayed me, and my own mother, who now sat beside her without blinking. This wasn't just about a child anymore. It was about justice, their kind. Before I could even process Helen's confession, my mother spoke. "Marshall's gone too." My head snapped toward her. "What?" "Dead," she said flatly. "Car accident. Drove off a bridge." I stared at her, searching her face for a sign. Grief, guilt, even relief. But her expression was unreadable. "You're saying that was you too?" I asked slowly. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked me in the eyes with something cold, resolved. We couldn't risk him showing up. Not after what Rachel did. Not after what she planned to say. I felt the room closing in, like the walls had shifted. "You killed him?" I whispered. She didn't nod, didn't deny it. "He made his choice the day he crossed into your marriage," she said, "and we made ours." Helen added, "We weren't going to let either of them take Lucas from us, or from you." I stood there, drink forgotten in my hand, heart pounding in my ears. This wasn't justice. It was something darker. And somehow, I was part of it now. I sank slowly into the nearest chair. My legs couldn't hold the weight anymore, not of my body, but of everything they'd just told me. "You killed for him?" I asked, voice low, disbelieving. "For you," Helen said. "For the boy. For what's right." My mother leaned forward, her tone gentler now, maternal, almost tender. "Ethan, you don't have to agree with what we did, but you need to understand why." I looked at her, still reeling. "You raised me to be better than this." "I raised you to protect your family," she said. "And sometimes, protection isn't clean." Helen chimed in, quieter this time. "Rachel hated you so much, she was willing to raise that boy on a lie, turn him against you, against himself." "And Marshall?" I asked, voice sharper. "What was his crime? Falling for the wrong woman?" My mother didn't blink. His crime was staying after he knew she was married. They sat there, calm as stone, two aging women, two confessed killers, and in the middle of it all, Lucas, a child they'd killed to protect. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then my mother reached into a folder on the table and slid it toward me. "What's this?" I asked, not touching it. Helen answered, voice clear. Guardianship papers, adoption prep, his birth certificate, school forms, medical. I stared at it like it might explode. You want me to adopt him? My mother nodded slowly. You don't owe it to Rachel, or to us. But that boy, he's innocent, and he's yours, in every way that matters now. He's not my blood, I said quietly. Helen's voice broke for the first time. But he carries your name, and your silence saved him. We made sure the rest would too. I looked down at the folder. So ordinary, so heavy. And if I say no? I asked. Helen looked me dead in the eyes. Then we'll raise him until we're gone. But we both know, we don't have that kind of time. They weren't threatening. They were pleading. And for the first time since the divorce, I didn't know what to say. Helen reached beside her chair and pulled out another folder, thicker, heavier. She placed it gently on top of the adoption forms. This is everything I own, she said. My house, my savings, retirement, stocks. It's all in your name now. I stared at her. What? She pushed it forward. It's not a bribe. It's a guarantee. That boy will have a future, whether I'm here or not. My mouth was dry. I couldn't even reach for the file. Why me? I asked quietly. Why not his real father's family? He's gone, my mother said flatly. And we both know he was never built for this. You are. I turned to her. You really believe I should raise the son of the woman who betrayed me? Her eyes softened. I believe you're the only one who can raise him right. Helen nodded. Start over. Give him your name. Build something honest. My fingers hovered over the folder. They'd cleaned the slate with blood. Now they were asking me to fill it with love. Just as I reached for the folder, my mother spoke again, so softly I almost missed it. We don't have much time, Ethan. I looked up. What do you mean? Helen's voice joined hers, quieter now. We've both been diagnosed. I froze. My mother swallowed hard. Stage 4, blood cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. My chest tightened. Helen nodded slowly. Same diagnosis, same stage, different timelines, but not long. The room tilted for a moment, not physically but morally. These two women had buried bodies, and were now preparing to bury themselves. You waited until now to tell me? I said, my voice cracking. We needed to do what had to be done first, my mother said. For Lucas. For you. Helen placed a trembling hand over mine. You're all he's got, Ethan. No one else. No relatives. No backup plan. I looked between them. Two mothers who had made their final moves. Two lives nearing the edge. And in their dying days, they were handing me a child they'd killed to protect. I didn't say a word. I stood up, folder still untouched on the table. My chair scraped softly against the floor, like even it was too scared to interrupt. My mother watched me with those same eyes that once calmed my nightmares. Now they were clouded, fragile, but unwavering. Helen didn't move. She just sat there, both hands folded in her lap, waiting, not begging, not pushing, just waiting. I need air, I muttered. Neither of them followed me to the door. I walked out in silence, the night swallowing me whole. When I reached my car, I just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. I had been dragged through betrayal, humiliation, rage, and now, this. A child that wasn't mine, two women who killed for him, and a decision no one should ever have to make. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove home, alone. And that night I didn't dream, because what they gave me wasn't a future. It was a legacy wrapped in blood. I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache, not from whiskey, from the weight. The conversation replayed in my mind, my mother's voice, Helen's eyes, the words stage 4 echoing like a slow drumbeat. I didn't plan to go back, but by noon, I found myself parked in front of Helen's house. I didn't remember the drive, just the decision. I walked up, knocked once. Helen opened the door like she'd been waiting the whole time. She didn't say anything. She just stepped aside. Inside, Lucas sat on the living room floor, legs crossed, playing with toy cars. He looked up when I entered. Big brown eyes. No guilt, no weight, just curiosity. You're Grandma Linda's son, he said matter-of-factly. I remember you. I crouched down to his level. "Yeah," I said softly. "That's me." He tilted his head. "Are you staying?" I looked into his eyes, innocent, unscarred, unaware of everything he'd survived. Then I nodded. "You're my son now." And just like that, he smiled and said, "Okay." 1 week later, the papers were signed. Lucas became Lucas Campbell, legally, permanently, irrevocably mine. My mother watched the notary stamp the documents with quiet pride. Helen cried, but didn't apologize for anything, not once. I moved them both into my apartment temporarily. It was cramped, but it felt like something real, something being rebuilt from ashes. Lucas adjusted quickly. No tantrums, no fear. He asked questions about dinosaurs and pizza, not about Rachel, not about the man who wasn't me. My mother, even in her weakening state, stayed busy, making lists, arranging meals, teaching Lucas how to fold laundry like it was a survival skill. Then one day, she walked into my room with that look I knew too well. "You're going on a date," she said. I blinked. "What?" "Her name is Kelly, former Marine, no kids, lost her husband overseas." I sighed. "Mom, I just adopted a child." She smiled faintly. "Exactly. Time to show him what a real family looks like." I didn't argue, because deep down, she was right. I showed up 10 minutes late. Nerves? Maybe. Or maybe I just wasn't ready to sit across from a woman and not wonder what she was hiding. The cafe was quiet, small tables, soft jazz, no place to hide. She stood as I walked in. Kelly Monroe, short hair, steady eyes, posture like she could still drop a grown man with one move. But her smile, it was kind, unforced. "You're Ethan," she said, extending a hand. "Guilty," I replied, shaking it. We sat, talked, not about pain, not yet. We talked about Lucas, about books, about how coffee shouldn't taste like regret. She didn't ask about Rachel. She didn't flinch when I mentioned I'd just finalized an adoption. She listened, and she laughed, real, from the chest. When the check came, I offered to pay. She looked at me, smirking. "You adopted a kid and still have money for dinner? You must be doing something right." And just like that, I smiled. For the first time in a long time. One date turned into 2, then 4. No pressure, no games, just presence. Kelly didn't ask for pieces of me I wasn't ready to give. She just waited for them to surface. She came by one Saturday to drop off homemade chili. Lucas opened the door. She crouched down, offered him the container like it was treasure. "Smells weird," he said bluntly. Kelly grinned. "That's how you know it's good." He blinked, then nodded. "Cool." They were best friends within 10 minutes. She didn't try to replace anyone, didn't force connection. She just showed up and stayed. My mother watched it unfold with quiet satisfaction. Helen too, though her body had started to falter. Chemo had turned her voice thin, her steps slower. One night I asked Kelly why she kept coming back. She looked at me and said, "Because you're not running anymore, and that's rare." That night, after I put Lucas to bed, I sat next to her on the couch. I didn't say it aloud, but I knew she fit. 6 months later, we got married. It wasn't grand, just a backyard, folding chairs, and people who mattered. Lucas wore a little suit and carried the rings like it was a mission. My mother stood beside me, thin but smiling. Helen made it through the ceremony with a cane in one hand and a tissue in the other. Kelly didn't wear white. She wore navy blue. Said it felt more honest. I agreed. We didn't say vows we didn't mean, just promises we could keep. "I won't fix your past," she whispered, "but I'll build your future." We exchanged rings, signed the papers, kissed. Lucas ran up afterward and yelled, "Now I have 2 parents." Everyone laughed, even me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a man picking up broken glass. I felt like someone finally putting something whole on the table. That night, Kelly looked at me and said, "I'm late." 3 weeks later, it was official. We weren't just a family. We were growing one. 2 months after the wedding, my mother passed away. She died in her sleep, peacefully, no machines, no fear, just a soft exhale in the middle of the night, and then she was gone. I sat with her for a long time the next morning, holding her hand, tracing the lines on her fingers one last time. Lucas didn't understand at first. He asked if she was sleeping in extra-long mode. I told him yes, and that she loved him until the very last breath. Helen followed 3 weeks later. Her voice faded before her body did, but the last thing she said, clear as day, was, "Tell him I'd do it all again." We buried them side by side, no fanfare, just roses, dirt, and silence. At the funeral, Kelly held my hand without a word, and Lucas placed a drawing between the gravestones. 2 women, 1 boy, a son overhead. I cried, not from grief, from gratitude. They left me broken. But before they left for good, they gave me everything. 1 week after the funeral, I found it. A letter tucked into a drawer in my mother's nightstand. My name on the envelope. Her handwriting, sharp, deliberate, unmistakable. I opened it slowly, already feeling her voice in my head. "Ethan, I know you hate loose ends, so let me tie one for you." I did what I did with full awareness, and no regret. Rachel was never going to stop. Marshall was never going to step up, but Lucas was always innocent. You didn't ask for this child. You didn't ask for this pain, but I watched you rise above it, day after day. Quiet, steady. That's the man I raised. One day, Lucas will ask where he came from. Tell him the truth, just not all at once. Let him grow into it. And when you tell him about me, don't lie. But don't make me a villain either. I wasn't trying to erase your past. I was trying to protect your future. Love, Mom. I folded it slowly, sat with it, and for the first time since she died, I smiled. Lucas is 10 now. He rides his bike too fast, draws dragons on the walls, sings off-key in the shower, and asks too many questions at bedtime. But he also says thank you without being told. He checks on Kelly every morning, kisses her belly goodnight. The baby's due in a month, a girl. We haven't named her yet. Lucas insists he'll know her name when he sees her. Sometimes I look at him and still see the hospital room, the silence, the betrayal. But then he laughs or hugs me for no reason, and all of that fades. One day he'll know. About Rachel. About the choices that built the life he now lives. And when that day comes, I'll sit him down, look him in the eye and say, "You were never my blood, but you are my son. You saved me just by existing." The world didn't give me peace. It gave me war. And from it, I built a home. Not perfect, but real. And maybe that's all any of us are really chasing. If this story moved you, share it. Somewhere out there, someone is standing at the edge of their own silence, waiting to choose who they'll become.